Hey guys, Patrick Wind here and welcome to this training model in which I'm going to show you how you can actually automate your ads. How are we going to do that? Well, first I'm going to present you an overview of the automated rules and their pros and cons. Then I'm going to show you the 14 automation recommendations directly from the Facebook headquarters. And after this theory part, we're going to step into a more practical setup guide. And then also I'm going to present you the three always active rules that me and my team always have applied in our campaigns. And then in the last part, we're gonna go to the most important part, which is basically creating your own automated rules. So after this model, you're gonna have all the know-how that you can have about automated rules. You're gonna see the recommendations from the Facebook headquarters and have a very practical step-by-step guide on how to create them, and also the three always active rules that me and my team have applied in our campaigns. So guys, if this sounds as interesting to you as it does to me, then let's get started. Automated rules basically are if-then conditions, so they automatically change your campaigns, ad sets or ads, depending on some conditions that you can define. So one typical example is if my cost per website purchase is too high, then please turn off this ad set. This is an automated rule. Or if the cost per website purchase for one specific ad set is very low, so I make a lot of money with that, then please increase the budget. So these are typical automated rules. And if they are too aggressive for you, it's not necessary that you can really give all the power to Facebook that they execute those conditions, that they execute those actions based on the conditions. You can also just let them notify you. So if you still want to maintain all the power, but you want to benefit from the Facebook automation, that they at least analyze your account automatically, well, then you can just let them notify you. Okay, so it is not necessary that you really make all the changes. You can also just receive notifications within Facebook or via email. Okay, if one or several KPIs are very good or very bad. Okay, and then very important, of course, is that you choose the right benchmarks to trigger these rules, and they should be based on your own experience. So here it is definitely important that you can decide several conditions. So please inform me if the cost per acquisition, so the cost per website checkout, is very high, and also the cost per add to cart is high, and also the cost per view content is high, so on and so forth, and vice versa. So you can combine several benchmarks. And the pros, so the advantages are definitely obvious. So you can reduce your time needed to manage your ads, especially in the weekends and when you're on vacation. So you can put basically your ad account on autopilot. And another pro is that it's not gut feeling, but it's real-time data-based machine optimization. So this is very good decision making when you have defined the rules properly based on good experience and good benchmarks. And this already gives us the cons. So you can never really rely 100% on them. Because it's just a machine that executes what you have previously defined. What if you have defined something that was not 100% correct? Or what if you have defined something that was good back in the days, but now the situation has changed because of seasonality, because of a new competitor, because of higher CPM, so on and so forth. So you still should monitor it regularly, at least the big picture, okay? But it will help you to automate your business to some extent. And then they can make the wrong changes that you would have probably not done just based on that you have defined them in a not 100% correct way. So these are the pros and cons for automated rules, and I will show you where you can find them. They're basically within all tools, and then create and manage, and then the last part is automated rules. And if you click on them, you're gonna see that the automated rules are you can take action on your ads, or Facebook takes action on your ads while you're away. So that's pretty cool. And these are some use cases where you can apply them. Okay, so Facebook recommends that you think about items you frequently check up and the subsequent actions you take in Ads Manager. For example, do you usually pause a low performing ad when it hits a specific metric? So for example, I pause my ad sets when my cost per acquisition is very high. Okay, so this is something that I can definitely automate. Another thing, do you increase your budget if a certain number of people click on your ad? Well, That's something that I do not do so many times, but I definitely increase my budget if the metrics are good. So do you increase your budget if your cost per acquisition is very low? Well, yes, I definitely do that, and you can absolutely automate that. Do you increase your bid if your total daily spend is below a certain amount? Well, that's something that you should definitely do when you're in the branding industry. So if you want to hit a certain daily spend, then you could do that. But you could also increase your bid if your KPIs are good. So if you work with manual bids and you see that your cost per acquisition or your cost per website purchase is very low, then you can definitely also increase your bid automatically based on those rules. Then, do you increase your budget based on return on ad spend? Well, I guess that's what every one of us does, right? So give him more budget if the ROAS is good. And do you turn off a specific campaign every Friday, for example? Well, with this we could play around to be relevant. For example, if we have creatives and copies that are only applicable during the week, then we could definitely let them turn off automatically every Friday, even though we're working with daily budgets. As you well know, with lifetime budgets, you can define which part of the day and what day of the week you want to demonstrate your ad. But if you work with daily budgets, you usually have to show them 24/7, and with those automated rules, you can deactivate them every Friday, for example. Now, what are further recommendations from the Facebook headquarters, and especially where we find them and how we're gonna discover them? So, the official recommendations from the Facebook headquarters, how you should use the automated rules, you can find in the Advertiser Help Center within Facebook Business, and they have the title Common Ways to Use Automated Rules. And in this Common Ways to Automated Rules, they actually have presented 14 very nice recommendations how you should use them, in which use cases, and in one of the upcoming videos I'm gonna present you all 14 in a lot of detail. And in this intro video here I just wanted to talk about one specific one, which is pause ad sets that are not performing well, because that's of course something that every one of us wants to do. So if you're experimenting with different ads and want to stop running ads that do not perform well, you can set rules to turn off the ad set for you if they hit a certain performance metric. For example, you can set the rule to automatically pause any ads with a cost per impression above $1. So cost per impression $1 would be actually not that bad. However, we can also define, of course, here to turn them off, to pause them, if the cost per acquisition is above 50 euros, or the cost per acquisition is above 30 euros, or is above 100 euros, okay? And here, the cool thing in this Advertiser Help Center is that they really give you a step-by-step approach. So step 1, go to Ads Manager. Step 2, in the Rules dropdown, click Create New. Step 3, apply Rule 2. Step 4, Action dropdown, click Turn off Ad Sets. Step 5. Okay, so it's a step-by-step approach, and they even show you exactly screenshots of how the conditions should look like, how many rules you should create. So this is actually a very practical and very useful guide that they provided us here with the common ways to use automated rules. And in one of the upcoming videos, I'm gonna give you a very nice and thorough detailed view in all of those 14 rules. Then I'm also going to give you a practical setup guide, so really step by step, clicking all of the necessary buttons in order to get them set up. 3 big categories. One is general settings, then of course the if conditions, and then also the actions that should be applied. When it comes to general settings, we have to decide where we want to apply the rule to. So all active campaigns, all active ad sets, all active ads, or we can also just use specific ones. So just for the prospecting campaign, or just for the retargeting campaign, or just for the prospecting ad set in Germany, or just for this specific ad, just for this specific collection ad, because it has an element that only makes sense during the week. Well, then turn off this specific ad on every Friday and turn it on again every Monday morning. Then the schedule. How often should the rule be applied, and when should the rule be applied? So once per day, or 2 times per day, every hour, just once per week, so on and so forth. And then we go into the details of the if conditions. This evaluates if the rule's action should be taken on each of the selected campaigns, ad sets, or ads. And very important, these conditions can be combined and should be combined. So I would not like to apply an automated rule to my account where I just rely on one KPI. For example, if cost per acquisition is high, turn off ad set. That is not very good. I would rather say if cost per acquisition is high and also cost per initiate checkout is high and also cost per add to cart is high and also cost per view content is high, then turn off ad set. And therefore I would recommend to include all full funnel KPIs in these if conditions, because that's a more thorough and appropriate automation. And then if we have applied all of those full funnel KPIs, what should be done? Well, this actually is triggered by the condition and will be applied. So for example, turn on or turn off an ad set, send notifications via email or just a Facebook notification, adjust budget, increase, decrease, so on and so forth. And based on that, you can apply them here in a very practical way. You see when it should run, to which campaigns, ad sets or ads should be applied. Then the if conditions, if on the left side, for example, cost per result or frequency and also all the cost per website conversions are high or low, then action, turn off, adjust budget or adjust even the bid. Okay, and one additional information I would like to share with you is that in these automated rules, Facebook always recommends to include also the condition of lifetime impressions over 8,000, because they really recommend waiting until your campaigns, ad sets and ads have more than 8,000 lifetime impressions, because the newer campaigns can have fluctuating results and need time to stabilize before rules with cost per result conditions are applied to them. Now, based on all of this know-how, I would now like to present you our 3 always active rules that I really recommend you to include also in your account, because they help you to get better results. So what are they? On the one hand, we have if KPIs are very bad, please turn off the ad set. If KPIs are bad but not very bad, decrease the budget. And then we have on the best case scenario, if the KPIs are good or very good, increase the budget. Now, let's go into detail. What about the first one? Please don't just make your faith acts, but trust numbers and take fast decisions. So if the KPIs are bad, or especially very bad, the ad set has over 8,000 lifetime impressions, then turn off the ad set. If the KPIs are bad, but not very bad, then have in mind also the optimization event, which can strongly impact the KPIs. For example, if I would just take a look at the add to carts, they could be good or not so good. So if I optimize on add to cart, usually the cost per add to cart would be rather low, but then what really matters is the ROAS, or the cost per website purchase, So this is actually very nicely covered if we include all the full funnel KPIs. And then what I would recommend you, if the KPIs are bad, is to be conservative with your changes. So you could set up to decrease the budget by 90% or 70% or 50%, but that's not what I would recommend. I would rather recommend to be conservative with the percentage of changes, and I would recommend to be below 10%. This will never harm the learning phase. So with a budget change of around 9%, you'll be very fine, and you can set up that it does this 2 times per day, which is actually the default setting. So if the KPIs are bad, you could say, please decrease the budget by 9% and do this twice per day. So this is a very good rule to have in place. And then the last one, in the best case scenario, wow, yes, you're in target, so it's time to scale up. And in order to scale up, we want to spend more money there. And now we could also, once again, increase the budget by 20%, 40%, 60%, 80%, but that's not what I would recommend. I would rather recommend to also be conservative here in order to protect the learning phase. So with a solid 9% executed twice per day, you're going to be on the safe zone. And how do they actually look in real world? Well, here within our automated rules section, we will have those 3 rules. One is increase budget by 9% if KPIs are good, decrease budget by 9% if the KPIs are bad, and turn off the KPIs if they are very bad. And this is how they're gonna look in more detail. So apply the rule to all active ad sets, for example. Action, turn off the ad set. Condition, if all of these, as I said, all the full funnel KPIs are bad, then please turn it off. Well, actually very bad. If they're very bad, then turn it off. If they are just bad, then decrease the daily budget by 9%. As I said, action frequency, how often should this be executed? I would recommend to leave the default, which is 2 times per day. And then once again, the KPIs here. And here you have to set up a minimum daily budget cap because it could decrease the budget until it reaches the level of 0, which doesn't make too much sense. So therefore they ask you for a 5% here, for a minimum daily budget cap here, and I would recommend to leave like €5. And the same they ask you also when it comes to the positive way. So if you want to increase the daily budget, they also ask you like until which level we should raise the budget. And I would recommend to put here something like €100, because if you don't put anything in here, well, it wouldn't let you save. But imagine that you would be able to increase the daily budget by as much as you want. And without a limit, so it could theoretically be that it spends €1,000 per day, €10,000 per day, €100,000 per day, and this would of course bring a lot of problem to Facebook. So therefore they force you to put a minimum or maximum daily budget cap. And then in the last part, after having applied and understood all of this, you're going to be able to create your own automated rules. And in order to create your own automated rules, it is of course very important that you understand your own data. So each type of campaign has its own metrics. Is it a prospecting or a retargeting campaign? They should definitely be treated differently. And also consider the seasonality of your specific product. So if I sell sunglasses, then in July the KPIs should be different than in December. And so time of the year for being more or less aggressive with those KPIs, and apply rather conservative KPIs and conditions. So that's what I said. Do not see them as 100% substitute of your day-to-day work, but rather see them as fallback options. So on the positive side and also on the negative side, so that all the outliers are going to be covered with the automated rules, and then the fine zone in between, so the gray zone you still have to do manually, but the completely red numbers or the completely green numbers can be covered by the automated rules. So extreme budget increases are not recommendable because they could worsen your performance. And here, very important, you should not grow only vertically by increasing budget, but you should rather grow also horizontally. So by manually duplicating ad sets that work nicely with micro variations. Last but not least, I would like to share with you here also that I strongly recommend you to use our full funnel benchmarks tool because you can use it as a nice guideline, as a nice guidance for your own KPIs. And important to note is also that each industry has its own benchmarks and average metrics. So what's the 3-step approach in order to create your own automated rules? First, you really have to understand your own behavior. You have to jump into your ad account and really analyze your own data, for example on ad set level, for the right time range for all the active ones, and then check what are the actions that I would really do. So if I see my numbers like this, what would I do with them? Would I decrease them? Would I increase the budget? Would I turn something off? Would I duplicate it to create a micro variation? What would I really do? Okay, and if you say, okay, with these kind of KPIs, I would turn it off. With these kind of KPIs, I would increase the budget. With these kind of KPIs, I would decrease the budget, so on and so forth. Well, then play around with the e-commerce benchmarks. So put in your average basket size, put in the variable costs, and then take these KPIs that you get here, okay? Compare them also with your own numbers, because do not rely only on this tool from us, but really also take a look at your own KPIs, what you have from your own account. And then with both numbers together, you can jump into the automated rules tool from Facebook and set up those 3 rules that we have just presented. So 1, turn off if everything is like very bad. So turn off if all of these conditions are fulfilled, then turn off. Then set up another rule. Decrease budget if it's not very bad, it's not very bad, but it's bad, okay, then decrease the budget by 9%. That's what we have here. So decrease daily budget by 9% if all of these conditions are fulfilled. And what I recommend you is to actually work here with ranges, okay? So for example, if the range is between 31.50 €31.50 and 42 euros, so if it is between this range, okay, then decrease it by 9%. And in the best case scenario, if the cost per acquisition is very low, cost per initial checkout, cost per add to cart, cost per view content is very low, then of course increase the daily budget by 9% in order to scale our ads. So guys, in this little model we have covered what automated rules actually are, some pros and cons. Then I've presented you where you can find the 14 recommendations for automations by the Facebook headquarters. Then we've covered a practical step-by-step setup guide and also our 3 always active rules. And last but not least, I've shown you how you can create your own automated rules in order to scale your ads with autopilot. So guys, thank you very much for listening and see you in the next videos. Goodbye.